Before dawn, somewhere in the Indian Ocean, the war crossed a line very few living people have ever seen. A U.S. submarine fired a torpedo and sent an Iranian warship to the bottom. It was the first American submarine torpedo sinking of an enemy combatant since World War II. The weapon was not meant to slam into steel. It was designed to break a ship from underneath. A single Mark 48 torpedo detonates below the keel, lifting the hull, ripping the spine of the vessel apart in seconds. Within minutes, the Iranian vessel was no longer fighting. It was dying. Smoke rose, the deck tilted, and the Indian Ocean swallowed a symbol of Tehran's naval reach far from the Gulf itself. Survivors were pulled from the water. Others were not. Rescue operations near Sri Lanka turned a distant naval strike into a human tragedy visible by sunrise. Then, the war moved from the ocean to the podium. Washington confirmed the strike and framed it as proof of reach, patience, and dominance far beyond the Middle East. It was not presented as an endpoint. U.S. officials signaled that the firepower over Iran was about to surge dramatically, while Israeli planning pointed toward a deeper second phase, aimed at underground launch networks. That message was felt in Tehran. Overnight, smoke rose over the capital again, as the war shifted from warning shots to systematic pressure on regime infrastructure and missile capacity. In just a few hours, the conflict moved from scattered missile strikes to direct state-on-state warfare. What began as air defense alerts and isolated launches quickly escalated across multiple domains: the skies, the sea, and critical infrastructure. The moment that changed the trajectory of the crisis came in the mid-afternoon when U.S. submarine strike sank an Iranian warship, the first naval destruction of this scale in decades. From that point forward, the conflict began expanding beyond a single front, drawing in new actors, new targets, and new risks across the region. In public, the rhetoric hardened as fast as the battlefield. President Trump said there would be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender, narrowing the room for de-escalation in front of the world. On the Israeli side, the war remained a civilian reality as much as a military one. Sirens, warnings, and the fear of another wave kept ordinary people moving underground through the night. By morning, more streets in Israel carried the visual grammar of war. Broken facades, dust, barriers, responders, and the quiet shock that follows impact before the next alert begins. But the most dangerous front may still be the sea lane itself. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a map feature. It is the artery through which energy, freight, leverage, and panic travel together. Commercial traffic began to look like a hostage situation. Tankers slowed, waited, or drifted under threat as insurance, crews, and charterers all recalculated the cost of a single passage. And near those tankers, Iranian patrol craft became part of the picture. Not always firing, not always colliding, but present enough to turn movement into pressure and pressure into global leverage. When war risk premiums explode, the map changes before the missiles do. A voyage that was merely expensive becomes almost irrational, and commerce starts to behave like a frontline actor. Iran is no longer relying only on raw missile volume. It is now using fragmentation warheads designed to break apart in the sky and turn one incoming strike into many smaller kill events. Reuters documented an Iranian missile with cluster munitions flying toward Israel, a weapon built not for one giant blast, but for dispersed damage across streets, rooftops, cars, and civilians caught in the open. The purpose of this kind of strike is not one iconic crater. The purpose is many impact points. Small fires, shattered glass, fragment wounds, repeated damage across one neighborhood. It is a weapon optimized for fear, confusion, and civilian exposure. Israel's missile shield is still intercepting a large share of the barrage, but it is no longer an image of total invulnerability. Reuters documented multiple cases where Iranian strikes pierced the defense system and still caused fatalities, proving that even a layered shield can be saturated, bypassed, or simply overwhelmed by timing and volume. The war is no longer staying inside two borders. Iran has fired drones and missiles at Gulf countries that host U.S. forces and support the American regional posture. That means every attack now carries the risk of direct escalation between Tehran and Washington, not just a proxy exchange through Israel. This is what regionalization looks like in practice. Not one front line, but many skies turning dangerous at once. Drones and missiles crossing Arab airspace force capitals that were once rear areas to think like frontline cities. Israel's campaign has entered a second phase. The target set is now moving below ground, buried ballistic missile sites, underground launch halls, hardened tunnel complexes, and the hidden infrastructure that allows Tehran to keep firing after losing assets on the surface. This is not just about launchers, it is about continuity of command. Reuters reported that Israel said 50 warplanes struck a bunker still being used by Iran's leadership beneath the destroyed Tehran compound of Ayatollah Khamenei. The war is now hunting the people who would manage the next salvos. Israel says it has knocked out most of Iran's air defenses and more than 60% of its missile launchers. That does not mean the threat disappears. It means the surviving launch network becomes smaller, more hidden, and potentially more desperate. Attrition is not the same as neutralization. Even a reduced missile force can still deliver a decisive visual effect if just a few weapons survive the journey. That is why every breach matters so much more now. While Iran and Israel exchange long-range fire, Beirut is becoming a parallel battlefield. Reuters reported strikes on command centers tied to the Revolutionary Guard's naval unit and Hezbollah, which means the war is now moving simultaneously through Tehran, Israel, the Gulf, and Lebanon. Trump's demand for unconditional surrender changes the ceiling of the war. Once the political objective becomes that maximal, every surviving Iranian bunker, missile city, and command node looks like a candidate for a heavier American strike package. Once the target set goes underground, military thinking changes. The conversation shifts toward gravity bombs built for penetration, depth, concrete, and buried command infrastructure. Even before such weapons are used, the fear of them becomes part of the war. The logic of this campaign is now unmistakable. Find the missile cities, collapse the underground chain, and deny Tehran the ability to keep launching at Israel and Gulf targets. Every hit on buried infrastructure is an attempt to kill the next barrage before it exists. Iran still has missiles. That is what keeps this war dangerous. But the conflict is now also a race between stockpiles, surviving launchers, and available interceptors. Every remaining launch can matter more, because there may be fewer left on both sides than the public realizes. At this point, the question is no longer whether the war is real. The question is which system breaks first. Iran's underground missile network, Israel's interception capacity, or the regional barrier separating retaliation from a far larger American strike.
Most people watch the world. We decode it. If you want to see more videos like this, like, share, and subscribe. Global Geopolitics. We go beyond the obvious.